The silence you've been living in is about to shatter. Not gradually, but decisively. Someone who's been absent by choice or circumstance or mutual agreement is preparing to break through the wall that's been between you. And they're not tiptoeing, they're arriving with urgency. This isn't casual reconnection. This is, I need to see you now energy. We need to talk immediacy. The kind that doesn't wait for perfect timing because the internal pressure has exceeded the capacity for restraint. Let me paint what desperation looks like when it finally stops pretending it's patience. No contact periods serve different purposes for different people. Some use them to heal, to create distance from toxic dynamics, to protect themselves from someone who hurts them more than helps them. Others use them as strategy, creating absence to generate longing, testing whether the other person will chase, building value through scarcity. And some no contact isn't chosen at all. It's just what happens when two people don't know how to reach across the gap between them, so they stop trying. Whatever created the silence between you and this person, that silence is ending, not because you're reaching out, but because they can't hold back anymore. The barrier they built or you built together is crumbling under the weight of whatever they need to say or hear or resolve or reclaim. Some people can live in silence indefinitely, can close doors and walk away and never look back, can decide something's over and treat it as actually over instead of just paused. But others can't. The silence haunts them, the absence echoes. The unfinished conversation loops in their mind until they can't function without attempting closure or reconnection or confrontation. This person is in that second category, and you're about to receive the evidence of their inability to let this stay silent. Let's pause here. This reflection invites you to consider, who have you been in no contact with who might be approaching their breaking point? Maybe it's an ex, someone you ended things with or who ended things with you. The relationship concluded, but the feelings didn't. The connection severed, but the attachment remained. And they've been managing, trying to move on, attempting to accept that it's over, but something shifted, something triggered recognition that they're not actually over it, not actually okay with how things ended, not actually capable of living without resolution or reconciliation. Or it's someone you had a falling out with, a friend, a family member, someone you were close to before conflict or misunderstanding or betrayal created distance you couldn't bridge. And the pride that kept you both silent is finally yielding, on their side at least. They're deciding that being right isn't worth being disconnected, that winning the standoff matters less than having you back in their life in some form. Or maybe it's someone who's been orbiting, watching from distance, not quite in your life, but not quite out of it, and they're tired of the orbit, ready to either land or launch, but not stay in this undefined hovering space anymore. This reflection invites you to consider, are you ready for someone to break the silence you might have been finding peaceful? There's something specific about the urgency embedded in ASAP. This isn't when you have time energy. This is I can't wait anymore intensity. Something's happened that made continuing without contact untenable for them. Maybe they're facing something that made them realize life's too short to stay silent about things that matter: illness, loss, crisis that reorganizes priorities and makes pride seem trivial compared to connection. Or they've reached emotional capacity. They've been holding feelings that have fermented into something impossible to contain. Love or anger or regret or need so intense that expression becomes mandatory, not optional. Some people break no contact because staying silent started hurting more than the conversation they've been avoiding. The fear of reaching out became smaller than the pain of not reaching out. Or they've tried everything else, tried moving on, tried replacing you, tried convincing themselves they don't need resolution, and failed at all of it. And now they're coming back to the source because nothing else worked. This isn't necessarily romantic. Urgency isn't always desire. Sometimes it's just the human need to complete something incomplete, to close loops that are draining energy through remaining open. But urgent contact after prolonged silence does carry charge, does create intensity, does force both people into immediate emotional presence instead of the gradual re-entry that's usually safer. This reflection invites you to consider if someone who's been silent suddenly demanded immediate conversation, would you be scared or relieved? Let me describe what their approach might actually look like. It might be direct, a text or call that says exactly what it is. I need to talk to you. Can we meet? I can't do this silence anymore. No pretense. No casual lead in. Just clear statement of intent. That directness is jarring after silence, feels almost aggressive in its clarity, but it's also honest. They're not pretending this is casual. They're acknowledging the weight. Or it might be masked. They might reach out with some excuse, some practical reason to make contact. I have something of yours. I need to ask you about something, creating plausible deniability for the real reason they're breaking silence. Some people need the excuse. Can't be vulnerable enough to just say, I need to see you without a practical framework around it. So they construct reasons that allow contact without admitting they simply want contact. Or it might be through someone else, a mutual friend testing waters. They've been asking about you. They want to know if you'd be open to talking. Using intermediaries because direct approach feels too exposing. That indirect approach is usually cowardice masquerading as consideration. They want to know your response before they risk themselves, want to gauge receptiveness before they invest vulnerability. However they approach, the approach is coming. The silence is ending whether you're ready for its ending or not. This reflection invites you to consider, when silence breaks, do you want to control the circumstances or just let it unfold however it unfolds? There's something critical about what you need to do before they arrive in your space again. First, get clear on why the silence existed. Was it protective? Was it punitive? Was it mutual need for space? Was it one person's decision that the other had to accept? Because the reason for silence determines whether breaking it is healing or harmful. If you went no contact to protect yourself from someone toxic, their return isn't romantic. It's violation of boundary you set for your well-being. But if the silence was circumstantial or based on misunderstanding or just momentum of not knowing how to reach back across the gap, then breaking it might be exactly what's needed. Second, decide what you want before they tell you what they want. Don't let their urgency override your clarity. Don't let their need for immediate resolution pressure you into responses you haven't thought through. You're allowed to say, I need time to think about this. You're allowed to not match their urgency with your own. Their timeline doesn't have to be your timeline. Third, prepare for multiple possibilities. They might want reconciliation or closure or apology or to apologize or to fight or to finally say things that needed saying months ago. You won't know until they speak, but you can ready yourself emotionally for the reality that whatever they want might not be what you want, and that divergence will require navigation. Let me be direct about what ending no contact actually means. It doesn't automatically mean reconciliation, it just means communication. You can talk to someone without letting them back into your life, can listen without agreeing, can engage without committing. No contact ending doesn't delete the reasons it started. If someone hurt you, them reaching out doesn't undo that hurt. If you needed space, them invading that space doesn't mean the need evaporated. What it means is you have new information about how they handle absence, about whether they can respect boundaries or if they bulldoze them when convenient, about whether they've grown or just gotten lonelier. And that information matters. It tells you whether their return is about you or about them, whether they've actually changed or just temporarily can't handle the consequences of their choices. You remain in absolute control of whether you engage when they reach out. You can respond or ignore, meet them or decline, listen or protect your peace. The power is yours. It always has been. You may notice reading this has activated anxiety or hope or both about who might be breaking silence, maybe dread, maybe excitement, maybe the complicated mess of wanting something you know isn't good for you. Whatever it is, honor it, take what resonates, softly release the rest, trust yourself. Before we close, I want to ask you something. If someone you've been in no contact with reached out demanding immediate conversation, would your first instinct be to engage or protect yourself? Drop it in the comments honestly. And this, does someone breaking the silence you've been living in feel like intrusion or invitation? Get prepared because someone wants to see you and talk to you ASAP and no contact is ending. Whether you're ready or not, whether you want it or not, whether it serves you or just serves their need to not sit with silence anymore. Their urgency is theirs, your response is yours. They don't get to dictate terms just because they couldn't handle the distance anymore. Not eventually, soon, maybe already in your messages. Trust yourself with this. Trust that you can hear them without committing to them. Trust that ending silence doesn't mean returning to old dynamics. Trust that you're allowed to protect your peace even from someone